Hello and welcome to the Interchange Book 3 Unit 1 video. Today we're going to be talking about relative pronouns. So let's get started. To start, I'd like to talk about friends. Okay, so in your opinion, what qualities make good friends? Well, for me personally, one quality is that they are fun. It's important for me that my friends are fun. A second thing is that they are honest. I think they need to be honest. Another good quality is that I can depend on them. Very, very important. And my last thing is that I can trust them. So all of these qualities are what I think make a good friend. So let's use these ideas to look at our grammar today. Now, our grammar today is about relative pronouns. Now, we have three main relative pronouns that we're going to look at today, which are who, that, and which. Now, we use these relative pronouns to combine two clauses together. Now, what's a clause? Well, a clause is a sentence with a subject and a verb. So basically, it's a sentence, right? It's a sentence. Now, something that we need to know about these relative pronouns is that they're used for different reasons. In the context of people, when we're talking about people, we need to use the relative pronoun who. If we're talking about people or things, we can use that. So that is very flexible. It goes for both. And if I'm talking about things, I need to use the relative pronoun which. Okay. So let's look at our sentence here. It says, I like friends. Okay? And then another sentence, they are honest. So if we see that I have something in common between these two sentences, and that's friends and they. So when this happens, I can combine these two clauses, I can combine these two sentences together, but I need to use a relative pronoun. So how can I do this? Here's the answer. I like friends who are honest. Okay? So basically what I did is I took my subject in my second clause, they, and I replaced it with my relative pronoun who. Okay? So basically I'm just replacing the subject in the second sentence with my relative pronoun. And I combine the sentence together to read like this. I like friends who are honest. And if I look, this is my relative clause because it contains my relative pronoun who. And if we look at the relative clause, the subject of the sentence is who. So that's using it as the subject of a sentence. Let's take a look at another one. For example, two sentences. I prefer friends. They are fun. Again, same idea. I have friends and they. That's my common word. And I'm going to combine them. I'm going to take away my subject they. And I'm going to use a relative pronoun. And it's going to read like this. I prefer friends that are fun. Again, because it's people, I can use who, or I can use that, because that is very flexible. I can use it for people or things. And again, all I did was take away the subject from the second sentence, and I replaced it with that, my relative pronoun. And I combined it together to read, I prefer friends that are fun. Okay, so that's what it looks like when I'm using the relative pronoun as the subject of the relative clause. But we can also do this with an object. For example, the relative pronoun as the object. So let's read our first sentence here. It says, I like the type of friends, I can trust them. Again, let's look. Friends is the common factor, and them is the common word. Now, them in my second sentence is not the subject. It's the object of the sentence. The subject is I. I can trust them. So them is the object. And that's what I'm going to take away. I'm going to use my relative pronoun in place of the word them. So how's this going to sound? For example, I like the type of friends who I can trust. So I took the word them and I replaced it with my relative pronoun who. But I put it before my subject. And this is basically going to act as the object of the sentence. And I read it like this: I like the type of friends who I can trust. Now, when this happens, when I'm using the object as the relative pronoun, because this is technically the object of my relative clause, it's optional. I do not have to use it. So I can read the sentence like this: I like the type of friends I can trust. And I don't need to use the relative pronoun. But this is only when I'm using the object as the relative pronoun. Let's look at the second sentence. The second sentence reads, I want friends. Next sentence, I can depend on them. Again, friends and them is the common factor. I'm going to take away the word them and replace it with the relative pronoun, and it's going to look like this. I want friends that I can depend on. Okay? Again, I'm taking my object them, replacing it with my relative pronoun that. And again, because this is the object of my relative clause, I don't need to use it. It's optional. I can read it this way: I want friends I can depend on. And that's completely fine. That's completely okay. So this is what it looks like as the object of the relative clause, using my relative pronouns. Okay, here's some things not to do. So I repeat, don't repeat the subject and object in the relative clause. So what does this mean? Well, let's look. Don't do this. I like friends who they are sincere. No. You cannot use the relative pronoun and the subject again. You don't need to repeat your subject. This, technically, is the subject of the sentence. So I'm going to read it like this: I like friends who are sincere. Okay? I do not need to repeat the subject. It's completely wrong to do that. Also, when it's the object, for example, the second sentence, let's look at this one. I like friends that I can go out with them. No, don't use that. Why? Because I've already used that here. That's the object. So I'm going to read it like this. I like friends that I can go out with. Okay? I don't need to repeat the object there. All right. So, again, don't repeat the subject or the object in the relative clause. Here's something to remember. Okay, remember to use the preposition if one is needed. Okay? We don't always use prepositions, but when there is a preposition, I need to use it. So in this context, let's read this sentence. I want a friend. I can talk to him easily. Okay? Now, here's my preposition that I need to think about. And in this context, I'm removing friend and him, right? So in this context, I'm going to read it like this. I want a friend who I can talk to easily. Remember, I don't need to remove that preposition. It's very important that I'm still using that preposition. This is the only part that I'm taking away. And when I replace it, I still need to use my preposition though. Okay? Use the preposition. Here's another example. I'd like to meet a friend. I have fun with her. So we're going to combine this, right? We're going to take away her, and we're going to read it like this. I'd like to meet a friend that I can have fun with. Again, I need to use that preposition still. Okay? Here is our last example. It's nice to have friends. You can buy presents for them. Again, I'm going to take away this as the object, and I'm going to read it like this. It's nice to have friends who you can buy presents for. Again, this for needs to be used again. Okay? Now, it might sound a little bit weird, but this is completely normal to do in English. Okay? If you don't use the preposition, it actually does sound incorrect. Okay. So, I hope this was helpful with understanding how we use relative pronouns, both as the subject and the object of the relative clause. Thanks for listening.